Greetings this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you? Oh, thank you. Allow me to begin this interaction with the entitlement. The referential, preferential, you. Now we have discussed many times the concept of your imagination as being one of your primary facilities or tools that enable you, in that sense, to create the life that you wish, to lay down the template, to lay down the model, to lay down the mold, if you will, that will enable you to begin to build that life, to be that very life. And many of you in attending these interactions and participating or listening to these sessions on what you call your tape format have perhaps on some level understood what we have said, have perhaps on some level seen, shall we say, the usefulness of this idea. But we do find that for many of you it remains just that, a concept, just that, a notion that perhaps would be nice if it were only true. Therefore, this evening of your time, we will participate with you, each and every one of you, in the formation of each and every one of your versions of that referential, preferential you. Now again, we remind you that your imagination in your society is generally used as a generator of fantasy. Many times in the form of an escape, many times in the form of a preference that you truly feel will never happen. But that is only one side of that coin. That is only one side of the imagination. When, in that sense, you view the imagination as a tool, you then get use from that tool that is very, very specific. Very, very individual. Very, very tailored, if you will. Therefore, once you have created the notion of the referential, preferential you, or perhaps you can say the you that if you had your druthers, you would be. In that imagination, and together we will form the mold. Together we will form the birth of this you, and then perhaps describe some of the other applications for it once having done so. So therefore, in your own timing, become comfortable in your seat. Now understand that what you are about to create, and perhaps for many of you recreate, will be something that will, shall we say, stick around with you. Being that it is your creation, no one can take it from you. And being that it is your direct extension, expression, you will never in that sense need anyone else in order to call it forth. So it is in that sense, by its very creation, by its very identification from you, a tool of empowerment that once you have, you can never lose, and again need no one else in order to express it. It is part and parcel of you. Therefore, in order to, again, create a conducive atmosphere for the creation of this referential, preferential you, and at the same time, unify and unitize and, shall we say, align all individuals present, if you will, for me now, in unison, take 3 deep and loving breaths. And understand that as you breathe together, co-inspire, conspire. An alignment takes place, but that alignment also exists within each and every one of you. So now, as you do relax, as you do settle in to yourself, blank the screen of your imagination and allow yourself to perceive what you may be called the black behind your closed eyes. Now, before we proceed, understand that there is no way to do this incorrectly. And in fact, your imagination, being that that's the screen that you are looking at right now, will assist you. Trust that that assistance is part of the very tool that we are speaking of. And allow whatever embellishments occur from your imagination to be the exact embellishments that make it that much more relevant to you. Now we will begin by allowing to emerge from this blackness, again at whatever pace is natural and comfortable for you, the outline of your body, emerging from the blackness. If there is something that you would physically like to alter about your body, allow that outline in that sense to represent any changes. If you feel you're a bit too thin, then in that sense picture it being a bit more robust, and vice versa. In any way, have this outline be the you prefer to be. But do not remove it from yourself. Still understand that you are seeing you. As you do begin to perceive against the background of the blackness, the outline figure, allow it to be slightly backlit by a blue-white light so it stands out that much more. And you can see the difference between perhaps the blackness within the outline and the background by that demarcation line of blue-white light. Now, again, allow what you would call the features, the color, the topography of, perhaps for now, the front of the body to begin to crystallize and see the you that you say you prefer to be. For some individuals, this will look exactly like the you already are. That is just fine. If it does not, that is just fine as well. But again, do not lose the identification that what you are seeing, particularly if it differs a bit from what you see in your mirror, is you. Starting at what you would call the top of your head and scanning very slowly downward, allow the details, allow the fine print, so to speak, to crystallize and see a bit at a time from perhaps now the top of your head, what you would call your hair. See that hair. How does it look? How is it hanging, as you say, being that this is a bit foreign to us? Allow yourself to slowly now scan down to what you call your forehead and eye region and begin to very clearly and discreetly, in whatever way that is presented from your imagination, allow that to crystallize and become more solid, more clear. As you do so, allow this to wash downward, to complete the nose, to complete the mouth, and the outline of the chin, as you say. See your face, the face of the you say you wish to be. Allow now, once again, that scanning to continue downward and allow the outline of what you call your neck to take on more substance. See the lines, see the musculature within that neck, still maintaining the focus on the face. As you now have head and neck, to whatever degree you have allowed yourself to create it, now proceed downward and see the outline of your shoulders. See the outline of where your hands or arms, upper arms, join to the trunk of your body. Continue downward and allow yourself to see what you call your chest, your rib cage area, your abdominal umbilical area. Notice the nuances. Notice the details. Notice the similarities from who you now create yourself to be. And as well, if there are any, notice the differences. We will mention before proceeding that what we are suggesting for you to be creating in your imagination is the you that you prefer to be, not the you that everyone else says you should be. The you that you feel comfortable being, that you know is right for you. Do not allow anyone else's opinion for now to enter into it. It is your projection of who you feel you comfortably are, not who everyone else says you should be. Continue down now to what you call your pelvic area and allow yourself to begin to see, taking form, taking shape, the contours of your upper legs, your knees, your lower legs, your feet. Now, as you say, pan back and begin by taking a few steps back from the point of view that you are to see the whole self, the entire body, head, middle, legs, feet. See it standing there in relief against the black background again, backlit by a blue-white hue of light. Picture, if you will, a road. It can be any road you wish. If there is a specific road, fine. If it is simply blacktop, fine. Picture now this you being placed upon this road, walking. This is now the you again. You say you prefer to be. So begin to now look at how that you is walking, how that you is standing, how that you holds up or down or whatever your head. See how your shoulders are held. See the language that your body exudes as it walks down the road. Confident, assured, in ecstatic joy for simply being, for simply existing, for simply living the result of the choice of your soul to create this life. See that you enjoy simply walking and notice the nuances. As you do, notice again the similarities to the way that you walk, but also pay particular attention to the differences. The differences in, again, the way the head is held, the way the shoulders are held, the way the arms swing, the message, the language that the body puts out. Note what is different about what this imagination is providing you in this reference point, in this referential, preferential you. And again, make note of them, the differences. Now, imagine that you, walking on this road, is coming up to three other individuals having a conversation. It matters not what they are saying, but in that sense you may see that two of them seem in that sense to be somewhat serene, and one in that sense is somewhat argumentative. Allowing that preferential you to again walk up to this interaction with the three other individuals. Allow yourself to see how you are participating in that interaction. How the referential, preferential you holds and maintains in conviction that posture, and is not in that sense strayed away from the center. That you holds again itself in a particular way when facing the serene individuals, but also when facing the argumentative individual, and pay particular attention to how that you, in whatever the specifics of the situation that you are creating, handles that situation. Now, this is the you always have said you preferred to be. So I assume that you would be doing the things you say you wish you would do. So allow your imagination to provide the specific stance and again, body language that accompanies this idea. And see this you. Feel the admiration for that approach. For that approach is representative of who you choose to be. Picture that you now continuing down the road. As you do on what you call your right side, you will notice a calm, peaceful, serene, and perhaps colorful scenery. On your left, notice what you call warfare. Now, the you that you truly prefer to be will in that sense perhaps have a similar posture when looking to the right and looking to the left. Therefore, analyze as clearly as your imagination is providing your particular reactions from the preferred point of view of that you, and pay particular attention to the differences in how that you handles and interprets the situation. Allow that you to now face the serene side of the road, having again the more tumultuous side to the back. And in perceiving that beauty, in perceiving that perfection, in perceiving that particular expression and manifestation of your nature, allow the feelings that you would have to come to the surface, and feel the feeling of fitting in, feel the feeling of harmony, feel the feeling of unconditional love and acceptance for the scenario that you have chosen to, in that sense, exist within for the time being. When you truly feel what I am sharing, allow yourself to now turn 180 degrees, putting the serene scene in the back, and now seeing what you would call any version of what you call warfare and tumultuousness upon your planet. But notice the following. This preferential you, this referent point, still feels that same joy, still feels that same unconditional love, still feels that same connection. However, perhaps is expressing it from the viewpoint, well, that's their story. Not invalidating it, understanding that that fits as well, but it is not representative of the you say you prefer to be. But at the same time, you can understand that it serves a function for perhaps other individuals who are still exploring separation, limitation, and negativity. And they too have the right and reason to explore. But notice the lack of effect from that scenario. And in fact, the maintenance of the centered self, understanding that the serenity surrounds you as well from the back. Allow that you to once again turn facing the front of the road as we have defined and begin once again to walk. Perhaps again now into a fog, whereby there is no longer a discernible difference between one side and the other. As you walk, you come upon a chair. Allow yourself to sit in this chair. Again, with a permeation of fog around you. As you feel yourself sitting in this chair, as you see that you sitting in that chair, become that you in the chair. Now take your point of view and perhaps sit on the lap of that referential, preferential you, but you will notice that you sink into that you and merge with that you. Allow your viewpoint to shift now from viewing that you to again sitting in the seat of that you and viewing from that you. Understand the following. You are that you. All in that sense that you would need do to represent this is simply to just decide that you are already that you. Just decide. A conscious act. The decision to become. Now that you are creating this notion within your imagination, understand that in order to do so, in order to even conjure up these pictures, you must, in the moment that you are doing so, become the idea itself. Otherwise, you would not have the ability to bring it forth. You are this you. By the mere feeling and conjuring of this you and experience of this you, you are that very you. Just decide that this is so for you. Now, in order to maintain this posture and point of view, once you have decided to change as you have, there are merely but two more steps left. Step number 2, one being just decide, is to trust that you have changed. Assume the attitude and expectations of the you that has changed, not the you that wishes to change, that is looking for the evidence of why you have not, and accepting evidence that you have not. The you that is that you would accept no evidence. the accepting of the evidence that it is not that you, is the old belief system. The trust in the new you is the creation of the new belief system that now looks from that point of view, that now acts as that you act. And in fact, that is step 3. To act as though you trust that you have changed. That means when something comes along, which would seem on the surface to say, you have not changed, understand that when you even interpret, I have not changed, that is not the new you trusting in the change. That is the old you seeing whether you really believe in the change. But you can simply reacclimate, reorient your consciousness to simply decide to trust in the change. Allow yourself now to understand that the chair in which you sit is the chair that you are sitting on in this room. And as the fog dissipates around you, begin now to allow yourself to reacclimate to this room, for you have sat in the very chairs that you are in. Again, at your own pace, when reacclimating to your surroundings, you may open your eyes. Now, once again, understand. You have changed because you are a conscious creator and have simply chosen to change. The expression of your belief that you have changed is your willingness to trust in the change and act from the perspective of the changed self. You have created a model. You have created a mold or a template. What we again sometimes call the referential, since you can refer to it any time. Preferential, since you prefer it. You. And it can come in quite handy in your daily life as well. Now that you have given it the substance. Now that you have called it forth. And very simply, if a situation comes along, it may not, but if it does, whereby you feel on some level that your initial reaction is that a reaction to a situation rather than a conscious action. Simply, first of all, note that you are perhaps thinking about proceeding by unpreferred, shall we say, perspective. See that perhaps you are about to do something that is not representative of who you say you wish to be. Then, in whatever way is possible under the circumstances, call forth the referential, preferential you. It now again has substance. It now again has mass. Hand the situation over to that you. The you that was standing in that particular way. The you that was holding themselves in that particular way. The you that when interacting with other individuals maintain that resolve. Maintain that joy. The you that when moving through the polarity of your particular physical reality, negative and positive, simply chooses the positive. Acknowledges the existence of the negative polarity because that is one of the definitions of the reality, but chooses the positive. Hand that situation over that you were about in that sense to perform that was not according to your preference to the referential, preferential you. And see with the specifics of whatever the situation is, what that you does. Very, very simple. When you do so, that you will surprise you very many times. Just as perhaps as we perform this particular set of actions, perhaps there were some nuances about that you had not anticipated. That is what your imagination contains as a tool. The ability to bring forth these specifics and apply them to a specific situation. With this tool, you no longer need anyone else's help. Now, this does not mean you cannot share, and this does not mean that from time to time you will, in that sense, enlist the assistance of other individuals. But you now have within you everything you need to proceed in any given situation if you will call forth and embody and empower that preferred you. At first, it may seem as a process. At first, it may seem that, well, my initial tendency is still the old approach. But the more times that you, rather than acting from the old perspective, call forth the referential, preferential you, and hand that over, the more times you will give yourself the opportunity to see that there is always a positive choice. And it is always within you, obtainable by you at any time. If when you hand the situation over to that referential, preferential you, and see what that you does, if you then do that, you will get the result of being that you. And the more you are willing to do so and only allow your life to be that consciously performed, the more that the process will dissolve in terms of seeming like a process. You will begin to automatically simply invoke and embody that you without the seeming one step of removal. So therefore this tool, if it does initially seem like a process, only does so because that is where you are now willing to insert a pause before you act according to non-preference. That pause, that willingness before acting when you have a negative perspective is all that is necessary to completely transform the face of your life. For it does not take very many positive actions in a row that then yield positive results to build up enough of a positive momentum to seem to overwhelm the quote-unquote old, non-preferred negative momentum. For it again, it is not a matter of walking or running from the negative self. But by walking toward the positive self, there is automatically a distance from the negative experiential self. You will still be aware of negativity while you are on this reality. But that reality, in terms of the experience of the negativity, will be through someone else. That's their story. My story is the positive alternative to their story, which I validate, which is a reality, which has the right, but is not my choice. I do not criticize it. I do not judge the other realities. I simply embody my own reality as an alternative, as a statement to the universe, as a statement to myself, as a statement to those around me, that this is possible. For it is. This is how we live, and not because it is us, but from our perspective, we find this most joyful and wish to share it with you. For your ability to participate in this style of interchange proves beyond the shadow of a doubt, at least to us, that you are eminently capable of what we are sharing. Therefore, if you wish, you can put this tool back in the closet to gather dust, but you can as well call it forth any time. But you will find, if you are willing to do so, you will no longer, after a period of timing, call it forth. You will simply embody it. It will be you. And as you look into your mirror, after embodying these ideas of yourself, you will begin to see something very curious occurring. You will begin to see the physical you changing. And will, in that sense, allow that change to whatever degree you will allow it. Will see an alteration in your physical self. This alteration, for the purposes of what I am sharing, may on the surface seem to be merely appearance. But it is far more than that. It is a literal redefining and reassigning of the value of your genetic self as well. And therefore part and parcel of the transformative effect on your very genetic core as well. For your body is a reflection of your consciousness. And if you go along with the same sort of consciousness, your body maintains the same presentation. But when you alter that consciousness, specifically if you do so drastically and across the board, There cannot be any other effect than that body, which is a reflection, which is a representation, to fall in step, to begin to embody the ideas that you now are. You need not, in that sense, do so with what you call anxiety. And in that sense, your willingness to be who you say you wish to be will simply automatically result in this, but in its own timing. Notice the changes when they occur. When they do not, simply move on. There will be periods that it may seem to be more accelerated, and other periods where it will be less accelerated. But this process can literally entirely redefine your physical body. Anywhere from 3 of your days to 3 of your years. It is up to you. And in that sense, if you do not place a pressure upon yourself and allow the presentation of the preferred you, you cannot force it, then things will perhaps happen a bit more quickly. But if you obsess with anxiety, you may slow down your own process. The alteration of the physical body in and of itself is not really the point. It is an effect. It is a result in the changing of the consciousness. And this will, if you are willing to do this, take the form that perhaps up till now will seem drastic to your society. Well, it's not possible, many may say. But you will show them that not only is it possible, but here I am. Therefore, in exchange for your willingness to redefine yourself, or perhaps restate yourself if you're already happy with how you are, I thank you. And as well, understand that one of the only universal constants is change itself. Therefore, that is automatic, and you need not force anything to change. Perhaps the forcing has the effect of making things seem to stay the same. But your willingness to simply allow and relax and release your reality will then allow that reality to conform through the natural mechanism of change, which again is constant. Nothing need be forced. And if you find yourself forcing, close your eyes, conjure up that you. I assume that you would not force, and will show you an alternative viewpoint, an alternative posture, an alternative point of view that will then give you one more choice, which, if you choose, will be the result of being that preferred you. Each time you mimic the referential, preferential you, you are being the referential, preferential you. And then simply you will drop the designation referential and simply be the preferential you. Perhaps then a reference point for others who may wish such change. In exchange for that willingness, I ask you now, how may I be of service to you? Sure.